Okay, so hopefully you spent some time playing around. One of the things I mentioned that you could do was have it only print even numbers. This will actually only print odd numbers, but I just want to show you what it'll look like, so save it, run it. So basically, because I'm incrementing I by 2 this time instead of just by 1, it prints every other. And if I wanted to start with even numbers, then I could start I off at 2. And we get completely different outputs. So you can see these little changes have some pretty big effects on what's going on in the code. So it's just a thing to keep in mind, that, you know, it doesn't seem like we're making huge changes, but it does hugely impact what actually happens in the program. So let's go back real quick to the slides. So just to reiterate, so the way a while loop works is that it has to have a Boolean statement, like I said, and it checks to see if that statement is true or false. If the statement is true, then it runs the code inside the loop. And remember, code inside the loop, right? You've got while, you got your Boolean statement, then you've got your colon, and then anything inside the loop is what's indented, so that it's like kind of grouped with that while statement. So inside the loop, and this is a really key thing to remember about while loops, there has to be a way to change whether the condition controlling the loop is true or false. And we'll see what I mean in a second, but basically, as you run a while loop, so you check if the condition is true, you run the code inside the loop, and then you go back to step 1. And you just keep doing that until the condition is false. So the reason I'm saying you have to be able to update the loop is because if you don't, you end up in an infinite loop. Dun dun dun. So let me show you what that looks like. Every programmer will create an infinite loop at some point in their life, and you know, you roll with it. So I'm going to comment out that line that says I equals I plus 2. I'm just going to set this back to 1. Now I've already warned you, this is an infinite loop. So you're hopefully not going to be surprised as to what happens next. It's just going to keep printing 1. A lot. Forever. Not actually forever. What'll happen first is my computer will run out of memory, or I will hit Control-C. Depending on the computer you're on, it might be Control-D. If you're on a Mac, it might be Command-D. I honestly don't remember. I don't program on Macs a whole lot. If all else fails, you can just exit out of that shell window. Just close it. The next time you run your program, a new one will open up. It'll be fine. Why does it keep just printing the number 1 over and over again? Well, it's because I'm not updating I. So I starts off at 1, 1 is less than 10, I print 1, I go back to the top. 1 is less than 10, I print 1, 1 is less than 10, I print 1. Forever. Not actually forever. But it's a thing to watch out for. So the key thing about while loops is you have to update your we call this the loop control variable. I is the loop control variable because the value of I is what controls when the loop ends or does not end. If I is not changing, the loop will never stop. So that is a thing to watch out for, and that is like #1 way that people get confused about how while loops work, and it's fine, but just FYI. So just a reminder that variables must exist before they're used. I've said this multiple times, but the thing is that if you are going to use a variable to control a while loop, then that, sorry, let me pull the slides up so you can see it, that variable has to get the value twice. Once before the loop starts, it has to exist already and have a value before you get to that while statement, and then it has to be updated inside of the loops. Okay, so here's another example of a loop. I'm not going to type this one out. That's going to be up to you, and just as a hint, this will help you with the assignment for this week. So here I'm saying keep going equals yes. So that's me assigning a value to a variable before the loop. And in this case, you'll notice I'm using a string instead of a number. This will also help you on your assignment. So I say while keep going equal yes. Well, since I already defined keep going to be yes, that's true. The loop will start. And then here I just have you know, I'll comment this as do something. So whatever you're going to do inside the loop, maybe you'll throw some if statements in there. Remember to indent them if you do. Maybe you'll have some print statements. I don't know, you're going to do whatever you want to do. It's your loop. And then, but at the end of it, or you can do it at the beginning too, it doesn't actually matter where you update, unless you're using that value for something else. But if they, you have to update that variable. Here we called it keep going, so you have to say keep going equals, in this case, I'm going to say input because you're going to ask the user, do you want to keep going? And if they type yes, it'll keep going. If they type anything else, the loop will stop, because this will only be true if keep going has the value yes with the lowercase y. Remember, Python is very particular about this stuff. So just something to keep in mind. This is the kind of situation where students will often ask, well, what if they type a capital Y or you know, yes, or just a Y? That is where you can put in those Boolean operators from that I mentioned. So you can say while keep going equal yes, or keep going equal y, or keep going equal yes with a capital Y, things like that. So that's actually all I'm going to tell you about while loops. You can make them complicated, you can have loops inside of loops. I don't recommend you necessarily do that for anything you're doing for this week. But you know, hey, if you want to see how it works, go for it. So again, type out the code from these slides, make sure they work for you, make sure you comment them, and save it so that you can refer back to them. And yeah, again, you don't have to invent any wheels here. This is just to give you a taste of what programming is like. So feel free to, you know, once you've typed out that code and saved it in a file, you know, if for an assignment I say, hey, we need you to make a while loop, well, you know, go take a while loop that works from the slides that I gave you, and then modify it to do what you need it to do. So if you do run into problems getting this practice code to work, definitely ask about that sooner rather than later. And yeah, but honestly, have fun. Like, this is meant to just give you a sense of how to do stuff, and it really can be very satisfying, so I hope that you enjoy it. And I hope we'll see you in intro programming. Bye!